Good morning, everyone. This meeting is targeting those who missed any of the English lessons during Term 3, Week 1. In this video, I'm going to cover what has been taught to most of the classes in Grade 12 boys and girls in Al Ma'arif International Private School. Some of the students, missed some materials due to some rescheduling purposes. I'm really sorry for that. I hope next week will be more organized. I hope next week they won't miss anything, inshallah. Let me just wrap up what has been covered and then I'll go into details. The first two periods were supposed to be for literature. Period 1, we covered the PowerPoint presentation about the biography of D.H. Lawrence. Period 2, we went through some background information about the history of horse races in England. Those two things, the biography plus the history of horse races, are deeply related to the title of our story, short story written by D.H. Lawrence, The Rocking Horse Winner. Yeah, it's about horse racing. Yes, and we need to read about the author in order to know who we are dealing with. All right. So I'm going to share the screen now, starting by the PowerPoint. As I hope you can see my screen. Okay, great. I forgot to mention period 3, we covered vocabulary workshop number 6, 10 new words to the students, and periods 4 and 5 for some classes, and 4 only for other classes. We covered grammar, and we explored infinitives and infinitive phrases. Let me just start with the PowerPoint presentation, please. D.H. Lawrence, British author, British writer, poet, dramatist, philosopher, and politician, because he wrote into all of that. Yeah. He's widely recognized as an imaginative genius. He explored male-female relationships in his books and the dark sides of the human psyche. This brought him anger, brought him censorship. Most of his books were either edited or prevented from being published. He was considered one of the most controversial writers of the early 20th century. Yeah, his works, as I have mentioned, were banned for much of his lifetime, but he now occupies a prominent place in literary history. You cannot talk about British literature without mentioning D.H. Lawrence. Yeah, he was the miner's son. There was some kind of conflict between the mother and the father. The mother, a former school teacher who really favored education, going to school, who sacrificed for her son to study and get a proper education. The father did not really care. He was into a lot of bad habits, chief among which is drinking. Great. Yeah, he says here, D.H. Lawrence, and I quote, "Nothing depresses me more than to come home to the place where I was born and where I lived my first 20 years. Yeah, we can feel some type of aversion into this quote, okay? Yeah, despite this hatred towards his home place, towards his hometown, he returned to it not physically, but in his books, by creating a setting that really looks like it. All right. As a child, he formed a deep emotional bond with his mother. This is very important because that's what we're gonna go through in The Rocking Horse Winner. A mother-son relationship okay? A deep bond that will lead to the climax of the story. I'm not going to reveal a lot of information about that. Yeah, she wanted her son to be educated and refined, and encouraged him to go to school and to never miss any classes, okay? But he went through certain hardships. Most of them are financial, okay? And he sought employment at the age of 16. Started with a job in a surgical goods factory. He earned a teaching certificate in 1908, but he abandoned that when he became seriously ill in the wake of his mother's death. Yeah, he was deeply bonded to his mother, and this influenced his power, his genius of writing, and his health as well, his survival. Okay, but he recovered, and Lawrence was determined to try and make his living as a writer. According to his own account, he began writing on a slightly self-conscious Sunday afternoon at the age of 19, as you can see. By the time he was 26, he published his first book, The White Peacock, in 1911. He then embarked on a series of novels reflecting his belief that industrialized society was damaging to the human psyche because it emphasized reason over emotion and intuition. Yes, indeed. He believed in that. He had these beliefs that industrialized society has brought the human being into a lot of chaos. These works not only fought against restrictive social and moral conventions, but also broke many literary conventions of the day. Despite the censorship of his work, despite his chronic poverty and the advancing tuberculosis he suffered from, Lawrence continued to write prolifically until his death in 1930. He completed by that time masterpieces such as Women in Love and Lady Chatterley's Lover. He and his wife, Frieda, lived all over the world. Later in his life, Lawrence wrote that the magnificent here and now of life in the flesh is ours, and ours alone, and ours only for a time. We ought to dance with rapture that we should be alive. Yes, he wanted, he desired taking full joy of his survival, enjoying life, celebrating it. These are his novels, his short stories. He also wrote poetry, more than 800 poems, literary criticism, studies, and articles. He also wrote plays, and he painted. Yeah. He also wrote about political, spiritual, and philosophical matters. Regarding literary criticism studies, yes, he not only wrote deep literary works, but he also commented upon other writers' works. That's literary criticism. Great. Lawrence was essentially contrary by nature and hated to be pigeonholed. To be pigeonholed, it's to be said that you belong to a certain category, to be categorized under a particular group. He hated that a lot. He was somehow a nonconformist. Okay, thank you for your attention. Now I'm moving. I'm gonna share another screen with you now. I'm moving right away to vocabulary. No, sorry, to period 2, which is period 2, which is the history of horse races in England. All right, great. Sorry for your time. Yeah. Okay. These details pave the way for a better understanding of what was going on in the story, The Rocking Horse Winner. We need to understand a few terms. horse racing. Names of horse races, as you can see here. Okay, the Derby, this one is pronounced Derby or Derby, whatever you prefer. Okay, the Derby, which is central to the climax of this story, is the second horse race in the English Triple Crown. It is a 1.5 mile race run in June at Epsom Downs in Surrey, England, often attracting as many as 500,000 spectators. The field is made up of 3-year-old colts and fillies, usually entered after successes in preliminary Derby trials. Yes, the name of the horse race was given, was under the name of Earl of Derby, who beat Sir Charles Bunbury in a coin toss for the honor of naming the race. Students also need to know these terms. In red, the term colt only describes young male horses and is not to be confused with foal, which is a horse of either sex less than 1 year of age. Similarly, yearling is a horse of either sex between the ages of 1 and 2. A young female horse is called a filly, and a mare once she is an adult animal. In horse racing, particularly for thoroughbreds in the United Kingdom, a colt is defined as an uncastrated male from the age of 2 up to and including the age of 4, from 2 to 4. All right, that's a colt. Okay, so these are the terms that students need to know. They won't be mentioned in the story, but just that we take the literary works as a trigger for us to reveal more information to the students, to educate you, to make you read more, to cultivate you and your senses. All right, that was covered in period 2. We talked about that, we discussed that, I explained the terms to everyone. Then I'm going to move. Still, I'm sharing the screen. Let me see if this screen is being shared as well. Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to, here, the vocabulary session that was covered in period 3. All right. We started by revealing the words to the students. It's vocabulary workshop number 6. The words are dogma, exhort, implicit, inveigle, nondescript, nonentity, parsimonious, scurrilous, sundry, and vociferous. All right. We dug deep into context. We understood the meanings of the words through focusing a lot on context. Dogma, it's a set of beliefs, a set of personal beliefs, as it is mentioned here in the context in the sentence. All right, it's the group of ideas that a person possesses. We also read this sentence, exhort. I exhort you to read at least one of Lessing's books. And look at the context here. You may not need further urging. So to exhort, it's to urge somebody to do something for you. All right, to push, to urge, to goad. Implicit, something implicit is something that is never talked about. We never talked about it openly, as you can see in the hint here. Every single sentence contains a hint. Every single sentence has a clue. The real skill is in following that clue, knowing that the clue is always there, even in the sentences included in the exam. There is no sentence without a clue. Every single sentence has got a context clue. All right. Implicit is something never talked about, but it happens. All right. Look at the example here. We have never talked about openly about borrowing and reading each other's books. We've just always had an implicit agreement to share our books, an implicit agreement, a hidden agreement, sorry, an embedded agreement. All right. To inveigle. It's so clear. I inveigled my mother to buy the books for my birthday. It looks like begging, but the real context is revealed later on. My trick worked. So it's like tricking somebody, trying to convince somebody to do something for you by tricking him, by deceiving him, by misleading him. That's to inveigle. Nondescript. Nondescript. Let's read the sentence to reveal the clue, please. Frankly, I think some of the characters in the series are rather nondescript, but in spite of not being memorable for themselves, they serve important functions in the books. So, in spite of not being memorable, the context is there. Nondescript means not being memorable. All right. Characterless, featureless, without any exciting, without any interesting qualities. That's nondescript. And remember, it's an adjective. Non-entity. I think that Lessing deliberately makes some of her characters non-entities because they are of little importance. They are of little importance as individuals. So if somebody is of a little importance, if somebody is considered as nothing or as nobody, he is non-entity, right? Parsimonious. I would like to buy you a copy of Shikasta, but I can't right now. It's not that I am parsimonious. I'm usually generous with my money, but I just made a loan to my brother for a new bicycle. So I'm usually generous with my money. Can you see the two dashes? This is an interruption, which reveals that this is the opposite of what has been said, which is parsimonious. No, I'm not parsimonious. On the contrary, I'm usually generous. So parsimonious is the opposite of generous. So parsimonious might mean ungenerous. I'm revealing clues to students. All right. Number 8, so parsimonious is ungenerous, somebody who is tight-fisted, somebody who is stingy, all right? Scurrilous. My brother can be rather scurrilous. I told him that I would lend him the money if he watched his language for 2 weeks. So far, he has kept his promise. It's been peaceful around here without his vulgar talk. So this person had a deal with his brother who is scurrilous, which means he's always uttering vulgar talk. He's always being abusive in language, being somehow offensive, offending. Okay, great. Number 9 is sundry. Please do not pronounce it sundry. We can talk about sun-dried tomato. Okay, but sundry is an adjective. Sun-dried is a compound adjective made up of 2 words hyphenated. There's a hyphen between them. This one isn't, it's sundry. Anyway, the story of my brother and his bicycle is only one of sundry things that I wanted to tell you about. One of sundry things, one of various things that I wanted to tell you about. Of all the items on my list, the most interesting is Lessing's science fiction. Great. So, sundry means multiple, several, various, varied, and miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, various. For example, I've got many files, one file for grammar, the other for vocabulary, one file for literature, one file for IELTS practice. And I've got another file, the last one, it's for miscellaneous, it's for sundry things, which means many or various other items that are not categorized because they are somehow of little importance. All right. Vociferous. Even my brother becomes vociferous about who gets to read the books. He shouts at me and tries to grab the book from my hands. So a vociferous person shouts, is a loud person, somehow violently, aggressively shouting. Okay, so a vociferous person, there is another context as well. He can be really loud and demanding. If you're loud, if you're demanding, if you're making a lot of noise out of something, then you are vociferous. So after explaining all these clues to the students and discussing them, actually, I always start with the first two sentences and then let the students discover the meanings by themselves. So we interacted and I unmuted the students at this stage to hear their detection of any context clues. Then we solved this. I suppose I did that with two classes, but let me solve it again in this overview. All right, so again, implied, naturally involved, though not obviously evident. This looks like implicit. 12, not having individual characteristics, lacking in distinctive qualities, drab, hard to describe. So this looks like nondescript. Okay. Various, miscellaneous, which is sundry. Number 13 is sundry. Number 12, nondescript. Number 11, implicit. 14, to win over with trickery or flattery. To entice, to coax with deceitful talk. To dupe, that's to inveigle. All right. Trickery, remember the word trickery or flattery, and remember this context. You're a great mom, I flattered her. You're a great mom, I flattered her, and you have always encouraged me to love reading. So this person, my trick worked. So this flattery was a ruse, was a trick. Ruse means trick, R-U-S-E. So that's inveigle, which is 14. A belief or set of beliefs. Set of beliefs, if you remember, it's dogma. Okay. Religious dogma, political dogma, doctrine, given to the use of abusive or indecent language, foul-mouthed. So as you can, if you remember here, scurrilous, foul-mouthed, vulgar talk. So that's scurrilous. All right. I hope you can follow with me. Yeah, too economical, stingy, and miserly. Too economical, this looks like parsimonious. Okay, tight-fisted. Later on, we're going to cover the synonyms. 18, so 17 is parsimonious. 18, to urge strongly, to advise or warn earnestly, to admonish. So to urge, to goad, if you remember this word, to urge, to exhort, to urge. I'm highlighting for you to focus. And remember, this is how we have to connect things together. Context of what we studied, what we understood, what we remembered, and then what we have in hand now. All right. So 18, to urge strongly, it's to exalt. Great. All right. A person or thing of little or no importance, considered as nobody, as nothing. So that's a non-entity. Let's read here. This is my favorite book in the series because it focuses on realistic characters rather than on non-entities who seem invented just to represent ideas. They are considered nothing, non-entities. All right. The last one, loud and noisy. Loud and noisy, which is vociferous. All right. Loud. Can you see that? Great. So these are the words. So we solved this page, and I gave this page as a homework assignment, which is page 26. Now, let's go through, so close, no, let's go through the other tab, which is, yeah, I hope you can still see what I'm sharing. Yeah. This is the list of synonyms for every single word we have just covered. Come on. Yes, as you can see, 10 words, nondescript, characterless, featureless, unremarkable, sundry, miscellaneous, assorted, various, varied, dogma, set of beliefs, doctrine, creed, conviction, implicit, implied, hidden, embedded, not directly mentioned, non-entity, insignificant, nobody, nothing if somebody is considered as non-entity. To exhort has got two meanings: to encourage, to incite, to persuade somebody, or to goad, to push, to urge. To goad, we can goad somebody, or we can goad an animal towards a particular direction. To goad, it's to direct an animal towards a particular direction using a particular tool, which is called the goad itself. It's a large stick with which we guide cows and sheep. All right, that's the goad. So to goad somebody, it's somehow to push, to urge somebody towards a decision, towards a particular area. Scurrilous, it's defamatory, it's offending, it's offensive, it's insulting. Parsimonious, sorry, penny pinching, ungenerous, stingy. You can go further and say avaricious as well. Vociferous, boisterous, loud, raucous. And last one is to inveigle, beguile, allure, and deceive. These are our 10 words plus 3 synonyms for every single one. All right, now I'm going to move on to grammar. Cancel. Okay, let's open the grammar page. That's periods 4 and 5, or for some classes, periods 4 only, depending on their timetables. All right, we covered the infinitive. I also explained how an infinitive is a verb form that can be used. Let me just highlight here. Yeah, I highlighted for the students to see my explanation as well. All right. Great. An infinitive is a verb form that can be used as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Most infinitives begin with to. Some infinitives come after particular verbs, they come without to. For example, let, make, and have. Let me do something, let me make something, make me read a book. So make somebody do something, not make somebody to do something. We have to understand that, and it's still considered infinitive. So to make somebody do something, it's to force him. To have somebody do something, it's to request him or her. To let somebody do something, it's to allow, to give permission to somebody to do something. Make, let, and have. They come without to. We have also the modals: can, could, shall, should, may, might, will, would, must, and have to. These modals come with bare infinitive. Bare infinitive means verb without to, but it's still in the base form. Okay, so infinitives can function as nouns, as adjectives, and as adverbs. To graduate is her primary goal. Here it is the subject. To graduate is her primary goal. to make sure that it is a noun, replace it with a noun and you will see that it's still correct. For example, to graduate is her primary goal. Success is her primary goal. So success is a noun. To graduate is an infinitive that functions as a noun because we could replace it with another noun. Infinitives also can function as an adjective. Mr. Tanger would be the one to ask. Adjective modifying the pronoun one. So would be the one to ask. To ask describes the pronoun one. So if the infinitive describes the noun or the pronoun, then it is considered as an adjective. The infinitive also can function as an adverb if it refers to a verb, to an adjective, or to an adverb. The guests stood to leave. It modifies to leave, modifies stood. Stood is a verb, so to leave is an adverb. All right. I also went through these 5 examples. We read this example as well. To forgive is sometimes difficult. To forgive is the infinitive. We have first to teach the student to identify the infinitive. To eat first. To eat first is the infinitive in sentence 1. To go to the vet for shorts. To go is the infinitive for sentence 2. Number 3, to have finished early. To have finished is the infinitive. It's the infinitive, as you can see here, as a present perfect form. Infinitive in the present perfect form, we also call it perfect infinitive. Okay, perfect infinitive. To have finished, okay, early would have required more help. One other trick to identify the infinitive as a noun is to ask the question, what? So let's ask what, number 3. To have finished early would have required more help. So ask yourself, what would have required more help? The answer is to have finished early. So this infinitive phrase actually functions as a noun. Okay. The large dog needs to go to the vet for shorts. So what does the large dog need? It needs to go to the vet for shorts. So if it's related to what, it's a noun as well. Okay. Wanted to eat first. What does the toddler want, or what did the toddler want? It wanted to eat first. All right. It's a noun as well. Call me if you have any questions to ask. To ask is the infinitive. It describes the word questions. Questions is a noun. So this infinitive functions as an adjective. Really? Okay. Number 5, was Pauli really, I'm pronouncing it in Italian way, was Pauli really prepared to leave? Prepared is an adjective. To leave describes prepared, which is an adjective. The only word that describes the adjective is the adverb. So to leave functions as an adverb here. After explaining all this to the students and their functions and everything, I gave them this as a homework from 6 to 15. Then I went to certain classes, by the way, with certain classes, I went to explain the infinitive phrase. The infinitive phrase consists of an infinitive and its modifiers and complements. The entire phrase can be used as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb, just like the infinitive. Let's see examples here. As a noun, Bruce's dream is to travel to Africa. Bruce's dream is to travel to Africa. Ask the question, what is Bruce's dream? To travel to Africa. So if it answers the question what, then it functions as a noun. have you had a chance to sample this authentic tortilla soup? Tortilla in Portuguese and Spanish, I suppose. Tortilla, the Americans pronounce it tortilla. Okay, have you had a chance to sample this authentic tortilla soup? So, a chance to sample. So, to sample this authentic tortilla soup describes the word chance. Chance is a noun. So, this infinitive phrase is an adjective. Last one. Are you ready to give Shamik her instructions? So, ready is an adjective. To give Shamik her instructions refers to the word ready. Ready is an adjective, and the word that describes the adjective, that describes the verb, that describes the adverb, must always be an adverb. All right. So to give Shamik her instructions is an infinitive phrase. To sample his authentic tortilla soup is an infinitive phrase. To travel to Africa is an infinitive phrase. Just do not forget that the infinitive phrase includes the infinitive and its modifiers and complements. So to travel is the infinitive. To travel to Africa, the infinitive phrase. Okay. To give, it's the infinitive. To give Shamik her instructions, it's the infinitive phrase. All right. I hope I have been very clear. I also went through these sentences, identifying infinitives and identifying the function of each infinitive phrase. All right. I hope things have been very clear. I also gave some of the students this page here, this full page. I gave it as a homework assignment to my students. Page 59, the full page, the full of page 59 has been given as a homework assignment. All right, so let me just recapitulate in one more minute. We covered the PowerPoint presentation about the biography of D.H. Lawrence. 2, the history of horse racing and certain particular terms. 3, vocabulary workshop 6, we focused on context. We identified the context and the possible meaning of every single word. Plus, we answered the question 11 to 20. Then we had a look at synonyms. And finally, we ended up with grammar. I hope this summary of the full week has been very clear. It's been a pleasure teaching you. Thank you very much indeed. I really enjoyed doing that. Have a great day, everyone.